Welcome to the Dr. Leadership Show, where we take a look at how you approach your work and personal life and how we can make the most out of both of them. A weekly get-together where we get real about self-improvement and development as we all make this not-so-easy journey through life. Our discussions will cover ideas and concepts from how to grow your career to how to lead your family towards prosperity and happiness. We don't pretend to know it all, and the doctor is the first to be vulnerable, discussing his own weaknesses, both past and present. This is about growing together and having some fun while we discuss what is happening in the crazy world we live in and how to make the most of it. Let's strive for awesome together. Let's get after it. Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of the Dr. Leadership Podcast. Hope you're having an awesome day. Being recorded on Saturday, the 23rd. So big basketball games today. March Madness is upon us. Bunch of upsets already. And I love the David versus Goliath part of the story every year during this. Women's ramps up today too. Caitlin Clark takes to the court. Hopefully, has a good game, scores 40 or something, and keeps Iowa in the limelight. Love it. Hope you're having an awesome weekend. Hope you're a basketball fan. I'm more of a football fan, but man, there's something about March Madness that's just so awesome and brings out the best in our society. So please enjoy the games today. Big announcement. Paul Epstein joined the show. Paul, author, 2 times best-selling author, former executive inside both NBA and NFL teams from the 49ers, actually helped build and sold out all of the seating contracts in the new 49ers Levi Stadium out there in Santa Clara, California. Also worked with the Yankees organization, an agency that worked with the Yankees and the Cowboys. Just unbelievable guy. He has a new concept called Win Monday. Check it out. It's at winmonday.win. Check him out. But he came on the show, recorded this week. It's up on our membership site. You can't hear it yet unless you join the membership site. That's found at www.drleadershipresults.com. Click on subscriptions, $5 a month. Cancel anytime you want. Great interviews out there. Also had Steve Kohler on a while back. He's out there available. All the priors are out there. Maybe Dick Vermeil, Super Bowl winning coaches who you want to listen to. Maybe it's Stan Phelps. Maybe it's Bill Fournette. These people are leaders in the industry. Maybe it's SEALs and Special Forces pilots. Maybe it's F-15E fighter pilots. You want to hear about the bombing runs and 650 combat hours. Maybe it's Kirk Lippold, the commander of the USS Cole when it was bombed by Al-Qaeda in the port of Yemen. Before 9/11, it was the first terrorist strike. All those episodes are out there. That's the type of stuff that is coming on the show through the Leadership Lounge, which is only available through our membership site. And eventually, I'll release every episode out to the public. But man, you aren't in on the know. So check it out. $5 a month, cancel anytime. Also, feedback, give it to us. Email address, drleadershipresults@gmail.com. Would love to hear from you. Today, I want to touch on something. I had an article come across from Harvard Business Review. I talk about it often. I have a number of periodicals that I use for inspiration, to drive perspiration, and writing these things up to bring to you. And it clicked kind of a big thing. There's a lot going on in my business right now, too. We're coming into another year of, it's always change. We're finishing up the last 10 days of the fiscal year, or 8 days of the fiscal year right now, and we're going to start again April 1. Hero to Zero, which I talked about on prospecting on last week's episode. Hope you enjoyed that one. Critical to individual contributors, critical to leaders and executives of sales organizations to make sure that prospecting always is happening. But wanted to bring this up because there might be changes like this that are impacting you in your life. I'm not saying a bunch of changes coming this year at my company. There's always little tidbits of it. My organization, very stable state this year, which is great to have because last year was very, very it was kind of like throw the stuff up in the air and see where this stuff lands, and hopefully we got it right. And looking back, I think we got it pretty tight. But this week's episode is with a new boss comes change, and maybe that isn't the change you're facing right now, but maybe you have faced it. Maybe it was last year that you faced it. I don't know. I've been doing this for 35 years, and I think I've had 18 or 19 different bosses. I've had 35 different pay programs. And I've had 17 or 18 new bosses. So this is something in your business career you're going to deal with. And how many of us have had to go through it? A change in leadership, the new boss. Probably all of our listeners at some point. Oh my God, change. That's the first thing that comes to our little feeble minds because we're an emotional crew, and that's just how we're built. That's how we're wired. Suddenly, the job you once enjoyed, maybe you think, oh, God, I hate this place now. Or I'm going to hate it. It's got to be bad. It's change. Hold on, folks. It's going to be okay. Let's face it. People don't like change. And a change in boss brings around the worst anxieties we can have, right? Typically, we think, damn, I just got the last one trained. I know everybody said that about me at some point, right? Lighten up. Life changes and managing fears and anxieties are a key attribute you need to work on and develop. It's going to be okay. People are starving to death. There's wars ravaging the world. The big terrorist attack in Russia, not a fan of Russia, but man, that's a bad deal. They go to a concert, next thing you know, bombs are going off, etc. You can handle a boss change. Promise you. Are you fighting an illness that's about to kill you? Are you about to lose a loved one? A child, a parent? Those are bigger challenges to our psyche than a new boss. I have been, as I said, in this business world post-college for about 35 years. Coming up on it. Can't believe it, but yes. I think I've had 15 or 16 different bosses. I started counting, and really I got kind of tired when I got to 15, I think, and kind of quit. But some of that is maybe it was a promotion, them or me. Or move to a different company or company reorg. But when I look back, I actually, when I kind of remove it, I had one situation that me and my new boss, man, we clashed a couple of A personalities, big A personalities. He was the boss and I was a challenger. And it almost came to blows, It almost came, it was not exactly, but it was not good. One of my best friends right now, in this business world is this gentleman, and I learned as much from him as anybody else. Learned the most I ever learned from my first boss, the owner of the company. I started in the streets because I was green. But the point is that if you look at it differently, maybe you're going to learn something. I don't know. Maybe there's situations that you aren't great. Maybe you just need to manage those fears and anxieties. I don't know. As I said, I've been doing this for 35 years. I don't have it perfected yet, but I do have a generalization here that it's all going to be okay. Even if it was how not to do something by watching this new boss, I learned something. I learned how not to do it. It was a learning experience. If you take that mentality to it, I think you're going to be okay. Now, this article I talked about, Mary Abbajay, president of Career Group, and author of Managing Up, How to Move Up and Win at Work and Succeed with Any Type of Boss. That's a long title. Spoke with the Harvard Business Review, and it was in a real recent article, and shared some great points on this. And it got my juices kind of flowing. And Mary's a pretty smart gal. The first thing she discusses is you have to be able to adapt in life. This is true of anything. If you weren't married and now you're married, adaptation, mostly on the men's part. You got to learn how to do things right. You've done everything wrong. Now learn the new ways. Maybe it's a new job. Maybe it's suddenly you've become a parent. Maybe you used to live in an apartment complex and now you've bought a home. There's new adaptations that you got to bring on in your life. Things change. Adaptation is key. Reframe your thinking is what Connie Noonan Hadley, an organizational psychologist, says in the article. She goes, reframe your thinking. Instead of ruminating or dwelling on the past and longing for what it was, see this, as I said before, an opportunity to learn and expand. It ain't what it was, so we got to be what it is. It's a statement I used in all these trainings I've talked about for the last several weeks where I've brought the 200 sellers together. You have been great in the past. Got to be great now. The puck's moved. Things change. A new boss essentially means you got kind of a new job. It's changed a little bit. So lean into it. How do you get back on track when this mental hurdle hits you, I mean, what are some steps you can take here? Well, I got a few ideas. First one, think positively. It's natural to miss the old boss and have it was and having how it was, but the fact is change is inevitable. Thinking or assuming everything will stay the same is really you're really on the arrogant side of life here, if that's the way you think it's going to be. So what she says here, Ms. Hadley says, self-reflection. This can help you handle the shift. Maybe, just maybe, your old pattern wasn't even garnering all the results that you were hoping or being expected to do. Maybe the new boss is calling it out. Maybe the old boss and you were so tight that the old boss wasn't doing his or her job right and letting things slip because we kind of got it going on. The overall results are there, but we weren't looking deep enough under the covers to say, hey, there's some opportunities here. Maybe you're pouting on this thing and you're acting petty. Are the new asks or processes really life-ending? Oh my God, I just can't keep doing this. Maybe it is. I don't know. I'm just saying self-reflect here a little bit. Maybe the negativity of the situation is coming from you. Maybe the reason it's all bad in your mind is because you aren't taking the appropriate psychological steps to protect your own self from your own self. See, that 6 inches between your ears controls everything. Attitude, end results, etc. So you got to be able to adapt. If you were set in your ways of doing things, why would you think your new boss would be any different than you? Think about that. I do this way because it's always worked for me, and I'm going to keep doing it this way. Well, maybe the boss is thinking the same thing, and the reason that the new boss is in that position is because they got promoted or an organizational change or whatever happened. But why would they not be given the same leeway to develop their processes? And do remember this. They're the boss. They get to choose. May not be exactly what you want, but they get to choose. It's so funny how people will always judge others when they don't look within and figure out that they're doing exactly the same damn thing. See it all the time. Now is an important time to drive an attitude of, I can do this. Remember, you liked your job, and you can still like it. You need to focus on adaptation for a bit. Remember, you probably went through this before. And what you now long for, you didn't think you liked at that time either. We're fickle. This really shows up this point when you launch new comp programs. So last year I launched a comp program, and there were a couple changes in it. And everybody, oh my God, this is awful, 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 all the way through the 11th, 12th month of the year, right? Through now. Now I'm going to launch new comp plans in April, and they're going to say, why can't it be like last year? Think of that. It's a never-ending cycle. We're fickle. We just sometimes like to complain. Woe is me. Oh, my life's so hard. Nobody's dying. You got to put this stuff in a reference point, man. We are fickle creatures. The second point I want to talk about was have some empathy towards the new boss. All new bosses micromanage or make some changes to kind of stand out and insert their new expectations, and seldom, almost never, does that level of questioning or digging in or challenging your processes or not yet established trust last very long. They're trying to get their arms around it too. She has come in and now has new responsibilities as the boss. I need to get my arms around my current state. So guess how you get that? You ask questions of those on the team, of the leaders that report to you or the sales reps that report to you. And everybody gets offended. How could anybody ask this of me? I'm awesome. Just ask me. Well, I hit plan. Leave me alone. Well, maybe you could have been 150% of plan if you'd open your eyes and ears a little bit. I'm certainly guilty of this too. I'm not pointing fingers. I'm pointing out what we all have in common. The new boss may be nervous or might be trying to prove themselves, or even beyond that, the changes may be coming from their boss. Maybe that's changed. Maybe the reporting structure got all upturned. Here's where you give some grace and some space. That's right out of the psychologist Miss Hadley's mouth. Grace and space. I loved it. Wrote it down twice. That's why I just said it twice. Relax, and they will too. As they adjust and gain understanding in their new role, they will get more comfortable with you and how you do it. They may be dealing with a boss that is far more of an issue than the items you have anxiety over. Be empathic for them. Oh my God, I didn't think about how she has to answer to that, to him or her. They aren't the enemy. They work for the same company. Maybe they see things a little differently, which is a good thing. I am very set in my ways. I am very regimented in how I like to do things. I try to pressure myself to listen to others. I'm not great at this either. Not all the time. But I've lasted 15 or 16 different bosses. Some of them were close. Not going to make it. But sooner or later, you got to just put your nose down and get after it. The third thing I wanted to point out was right out of the HBR article. It says focus on priorities, preferences, and pet peeves. Use your observational and listening skills to see what these items are on your boss's list. Let me repeat that. What are the priorities, what are their preferences, and what are their pet peeves? Focus on the things that they want as priorities and avoid the pet peeves. Man, life's going to get easier real quick. If you feel you can't get in the same or on the same wavelength with this new person, the new boss, then think about asking for feedback or guidance from people that have already been reporting to that person or are currently reporting to the person or reported to that new boss in the past. Learn from their experiences. Because what you're going to find is, the conversation is probably going to start with, how in the world did you ever work for Mickey? And they're going to say, oh, you just need to understand Mickey. Got some idiosyncrasies, but heart's in the right place. They do want to help. Maybe you just need to understand on how they go about helping is different than how your former boss helped, or maybe didn't help. Just take a breath. Just take a little time. Be observational. Find out what makes them tick. Ask them what makes them tick. Whew, communication? You're kidding me. No, I'm not. Some folks get really peeved and defensive too. It's very natural. And I'm talking about the people that are dealing with the new boss right now. Really upsets them. The new boss just questions something or makes a statement that you feel is questioning my ability or way of doing things. Don't automatically, just jump to the pissed off state. It does you no good to burn negative emotional energy like that. I promise you this, the train track is going downhill on your relationship if you act like that. It's not good mojo. It's terrible energy. Instead, think about maybe agreeing and kind of a yes approach, let's say and. Use a yes and approach. When they ask you to do something new, say yes, and then add the and part, which means building on the boss's idea and give some feedback on your insights. Maybe the boss doesn't know the why, in air quotes. Some of the processes or patterns that you're using are in place. Maybe they just don't have an experience with why what they're asking for may not work. Work those into your feedback. It builds trust and it builds a relationship. Now, don't call the idea stupid or a bad idea, but offer up feedback. Here's a simple example. I understand what the outcome is you're after. However, I think it is important I point out some items we all need to consider while we drive for these objectives. And then you throw a couple things out. Not sure if you've had experience with this, boss, but our internal operational systems do this, which causes your ask to be a little more challenging than I think you might think. Now, if I'm wrong, please let me know and I'll do whatever you say. But I do want to put this out on the table to discuss it because I don't want us to churn in the mud. I don't want us to do things that are not going to garner the outcomes and the results that we're all interested in. Right? This is about winning as a team. This is about improving. This is about the journey. If it was the same every day after day after day, most leaders and individual contributors wouldn't do it. But you're going to go a lot further with a new boss if you don't call the baby ugly. Also, don't do that negative mojo with others on the team and create an us versus her or us versus him. It's no good there. Suddenly it turns into insubordination, fireable offense, right? I actually fired 150% of Plan Guy one time because he smacked out in a public setting to a boss, his boss. I actually stated to him, "You have no idea how much better than you I am at this," something like that. I asked the guy to step out of the room. I was a new boss. Actually, I was in Raleigh, North Carolina. I was a new boss. Walked the guy out of the room, walked him to his cubicle, said, "You got anything here you need?" He goes, "What are you talking about?" I said, "You're done." He goes, "I'm 150%. What are you talking about? I'm a perennial performer." I said, "You're a cancer in my organization. I appreciate all you've done. Grab your shit and go." Literally. Wasn't my proudest moment, but I'll tell you what, that team knew I was serious about we're going to be a team. Now, I'm not saying that there isn't times when you push back. Every pushback isn't insubordination. This was a personal attack on the boss in front of others. Fireable offense. Every time. In my world. So use that yes and approach and find something that you can talk about that gives the insights that you're trying to get across. Don't just walk out of the meeting and go, "This is never going to work. I can't believe he actually said that. I can't believe he doesn't know." I can't believe you don't know some things. There's something on your list today that could be improved. Don't get that way. That's an ugly underbelly of society. Be positive. Be uplifting. Don't be a cancer. And don't have anxieties over this. You can do it. Promise you. The fifth thing I wrote down, and probably the most important, and it's completely in your control. You want the new boss to get off your back or to not be poking their nose around so much? Here's an idea. Crush it at work. Crush it. Constantly strive for improvement and let it be seen. Use your ears, not your mouth. Inspect what you expect of your teammates and your teams. New customers, new customers, new customers, new customers. Hit the KPIs, key performance indicators, leading indicators especially. Results, the report with the results is trailing indicators. Zero value in my mind in the grand scheme of things. Leading indicators are what you lead to. As a manager, as an individual contributor, it's like talking about prospecting. The leading indicators, glad you got the $1 million deal, Susie. Your quote is $2 million this year. If you don't prospect while you're installing $1 million deal, you're going to end up at 50% of plan. So hit those KPIs. The other thing, don't take it personally. This world is so full of me, me, me. Everything's about me. Start being about the we a little bit. Feedback's a gift if you choose to accept it. Doesn't mean they don't like you. It doesn't mean they don't trust you. It doesn't mean they don't feel that you are good at what you do. It may just be an opportunity for you to learn something. All of us, leaders, executives, managers, individual contributors, CEOs, don't take it personally. If you were ever an athlete, high-level athlete too. I mean, some people played, my wife played Division I ball. She had different coaches, new ways you were expected to do things. You adapted then. You went from the JV football coach to the varsity football coach. They did some things differently. You adapted now. Or you adapted then, so adapt now. With great results, your boss looks good, and the focus will not be on what you aren't doing right, but it won't be on what you're not doing right, but it'll shift over to, tell me how in the hell you are doing so well with your team or with your results, right? Adapt, crush it at work, and the questions turn from, tell me why you aren't doing something, to tell me how in the hell you are doing something. 100% in your control. If all else fails, I've given you 5 things here. If all else fails, here's what I would suggest. If it doesn't work, finally consider a conversation to start over, or a fresh start with the new boss. If the first 6 months have been rough, it has been rough for them too. It's been rough on both of you. Coming with an olive branch will break down barriers and build bridges. I've said things for years. Don't burn bridges. You might need that road home. It's a true statement. I've seen it happen too many times. I've seen people leave or blow up or ruin a relationship at work, leave the company, find out the grass isn't greener, and then want to come back, and they friggin' blew up their chips, man. There's no more chips to play. They don't have any friends anymore because they remember how they were when they left. That's the true tale of character, is how you respond and how you act under pressure and in situations that aren't rosy and aren't cheery. That's where real leadership and real performance comes from. How do they respond under pressure? Right? So consider that conversation to open it up. And finally, I suppose, if none else works, and you love the people and you love the job and the customers and the products, take a deep breath, and this too shall pass. Time is your friend here. 35 years. I came up with 15 different bosses. So that means once every every 2.2, every 2.3 something years, it changes. That boss moves on or up or out. You move on or up or out. It's okay. There's enough things in this world to drive you crazy and to drive worries, family things, illnesses, the rent, the mortgage, the economy's in the shitter. We've got leadership problems inside this country that are just, it's mind-blowing of what's going on. Man, don't sweat this thing. And finally, if you just can't get over it, move on. But remember this, there's going to be a new boss there too. Now you have none of the chips that you have, the knowledge chips, the process chips, the understanding how the company works. The product knowledge needs to start from scratch. All of that you already have, that is advantageous to your outcomes, you lose because you didn't like the boss. Now, all the stories and all the surveys say people don't leave companies, they leave bosses. So now I'm speaking to the bosses. Be open-minded yourself. Don't be an arsehole. Don't take people that have presented performance for years and start to question everything about it. Show some grace yourself. Ask questions on, why have we been currently doing it this way? I'd like to understand, instead of coming in and just laying down new laws, man. Start with, tell me a little bit about why you feel this is the right way to go. What a great way to build team. Make sure you are a good communicator as a boss. Come in and tell them the why. Don't demand something. Inspire on why we need to do something. Make sure your communication is clear. Don't send out dictates via email. Misconstrued, loses context. Pull people together. Have a sit down for the first 6 months, every other week with them. How's it going? What can I do better? Remember, as a boss, you're supposed to have a servant's attitude, not treat them like servants. A servant's attitude will do more for your livelihood as a leader than any other concept you can find. I don't care what other concept you can bring to me. A servant's attitude will inspire and get people to go over the hill for you. If you're the new boss, you need to create followership. You don't need to create new processes. You don't need to create walls. You don't need to create angst. I've talked for 30 minutes on how the people that have the new boss need to settle their mindset. I'm now talking to you. Get over yourself. And if someone's driving down through you, if the proverbial crap is rolling downhill through you, you need to stop that stuff at your spot on the hill. You need to keep your people inspired and motivated. You need them wanting to do things, not demanding them to do things. It's true in all forms of life. People are fickle. Their minds get in the way of these things. We're fragile creatures, many of us. So you've got to be careful on how you lead too. And what ends up happening is if the two parties, the leaders, the new bosses, the people that are now have a new reporting structure and such, communicate, get together, start working together, guess what happens? You all become awesome. Keep that shit up. Talk next week.